Season 4 of The Boys has now come to an end, with the release of the episode titled the Season 4 finale. This episode is crazy at times, as you come to expect with The Boys, but was also a slower moving and more passive finale than we're used to. That's not to say it didn't work, but there's definitely a lot to discuss about this episode. Before we start, if you do go on to enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Over the next few weeks, I'll be releasing multiple videos on The Boys, and I'm confident all of them are worth your time. So continuing on, the whole shifter part of the plot in this episode was amazing. Moriarty does such a great job at playing these two different characters, despite them both having the exact same face, to the point where both Annie and the shifter are both completely distinguishable. Going into this episode, I was fully believing the president was going to die, and whilst he's still technically off the map, the shifter did fail overall. I did, however, not expect it to be Annie herself who stopped the shapeshifter, but I'm not mad about it. I love that moment for her character. It's a great scene that essentially allows her to confront herself and come to terms with who she is. But come on, Kripke, give Huey a break. Like, if he somehow does not get a good ending in season 5, there will be riots. I don't normally pay loads of attention towards Easter eggs in TV shows and movies. I kind of just discover them after watching videos after the fact. But I found it really funny that MM's top was a Dead Prez t-shirt. I know this is a hip-hop duo, but the irony there is brilliant. It's like he was trying to jinx their mission or something, or maybe it's some reverse psychology, I don't know. But in universe, that is an odd choice of top for the current day they're living. Also, as someone who's watching Supernatural for the first time this year, getting Bob Singer to say "Agent" and 2 lines Bobby Singer says in Supernatural so frequently was just amazing. In this episode, we finally got to see Butcher on his last legs, and it was hard to watch but sort of beautiful at the same time. Getting to finally see the side of Butcher that was probably there before the disappearance and death of Becca. I loved seeing Butcher this emotional and thoughtful, but Malorie had to go and mess it up. Butcher was finally getting to Ryan, and that just all gets thrown out the window. Whilst I don't think Ryan is fully turned against the boys' side of the fight, Grace Mallory clearly did not pursue the right path, as we can see. And her death was a complete shock. Like, who had that on their bingo card? I was fully believing her lack of appearances this season meant she'd have a bigger role to play in season 5, but that's clearly not happening now. Homelander in this episode definitely has a lack of focus on him when compared to the previous finales of the show. I had guessed they were going to push Homelander to his limit in this episode, but I wasn't expecting him to take as big a backseat as he did, with his actions mostly carrying the plot forward without him having to do any extra work. Like him putting the hit out on people that got all the dirt on him, like Ashley, which forced her to use Compound V, by the way, and I personally think this is such a great story thread, and now I'm actually kind of wanting to see more Ashley next season, which normally does not happen. I feel like her power has to be something that sort of makes her invulnerable, as I feel like that's her biggest need right now. A funny idea some people have had is to give her hair-like powers like Medusa from Marvel, which could be equally as great. Homelander in this episode also chooses to out Victoria Newman as a suit, which indirectly foils his plans as she just goes straight to the boys to try and take him down. I would argue it's the one thing he did this episode that fully had an impact on the outcome he would get, and it just reinforces the things Sage keeps saying about him. Luckily for him, we see this as all part of Sage's plan, and Victoria Newman's death was the most essential part of that plan, which makes Butcher's turn to the dark side and killing Victoria Newman the main reason for Homelander actually coming out on top this episode. I predicted the evil Butcher and Victoria Newman death in a video I made just the other day, and whilst I'm happy I got something right for once, that does not mean I actually wanted it to happen. One of the things that comes as a result of this that I didn't want to happen was Victoria Newman's biggest fear coming true, Zoe ending up in Red River. Gut-wrenching to see that cycle continue. It's almost ironic how the one time she goes to help the boys, she gets killed by Butcher, and this is the only time she would have ever died to Butcher. Had she helped them and joined them sooner, none of this would have happened. It's simply a coincidence, and just the combination of Butcher going full Vecna and her deciding to help the boys for once caused her and the boys to essentially give Homelander America on a silver platter. In this episode, we also got a special moment between Kimiko and Frenchie, and I'm glad we got that scene. It very much felt like that was the direction they were going in season 3, and I'm happy they've circled back to this by the end of season 4. The Frenchie and Colin plotline this season worked to give Frenchie something to do for the season, but for many reasons, they never had as good a connection as Kimiko and Frenchie, and so it's good to bring it back to this and give us a defining stance on their relationship. Even setting up for her finally speaking and using her voice when she screams for Frenchie in the final scenes. The ending we got of this episode forced the boys to split up to escape essentially the soup forces of America. America now, and yet we still almost get all of them captured within the scene by returning soups like Cindy and Kate. With only Butcher and Starlight in the wind, it very much sets up for this apocalypse-like season we're going to get. Not to mention the end credit scene, showing Homelander discovering Soldier Boy at the CIA. Now, I can't imagine the awakening of Soldier Boy going well at all, but that keeps me excited to see how it plays out, and we might even get an almost 3-faction war in the final season, as opposed to the 2 sides we currently have. I feel like this finale generally does a good job at concluding this season, as well as getting us excited for season 5, but I still felt there was something missing in here. And it's almost definitely the rivalry between Butcher and Homelander. The first 3 seasons and their respective finales are all anchored around the mission of Butcher trying to kill Homelander for what he did to Becca. And that part of the story almost felt non-existent in this finale and less important throughout the season. To go from every season having multiple interactions with those characters to having only 1 interaction in episode 1, it just dissipates the tension and excitement of the season and its story, because that's what we were always focusing on. For me, that was always the central part of the story, and I did feel like that was missing here. Which is why I still have the stance that this season is sort of a part 1 of a 2-part season. I will be discussing this topic in a video soon, so keep an eye out on that one. Anyway, that's just some of my thoughts on this last episode, but make sure to let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to know what you think of this ending and whether it worked or didn't work for you. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.